I've been a liberal my whole life. My father now thinks I'm a right-wing nut job and is unwilling to even listen to your podcast. There's obviously a lot of information he hasn't been exposed to. How do I help him in the right way? This has been a process for me and has changed my life.
Yeah, that's a good one. And the most important part of it has to do with the family aspect. I think a lot of us are finding this. I know that I am finding it even pretty close in within our, not family so much, but friend group, where people that you would imagine should see at least the confusion of where we are and should understand that somebody arriving at a conclusion that sounds like it's from the other side isn't on the other side. Mm-hmm. They've just followed the evidence somewhere. I think the thing that I would start with is the evidence that nobody really knows what's going on is pretty profound. And I would point to the following thing. People are sick with a lot of different things, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's obesity or autism or anxiety disorders, right? The number of maladies that afflict human beings is many. And lots of people are willing to tell you that X malady is not caused by Y influence. What they're not willing to do is tell you what it is caused by. So the basic point is nobody wants to address the sheer number of places where we have apparently done something wrong enough to harm thousands, hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of people. Yeah. And that in such an environment, the last thing you want to do is shut down lines of inquiry that proceed from evidence to testable conclusions. And so I don't know that there's any way to get your father, was it, to pay attention to the DarkHorse podcast, or it's necessarily the thing that would open their eyes. But I think what people need to realize is that the voice that is assuring them that things are pretty good and that those crazy ideas on the fringe are really not worth paying attention to, none of these people are in a position to explain why we're so, unwell as a species. That's not something, if you go into nature, look at any species in nature, you do not see a huge amount of unwellness. Creatures tend to be well adapted to their environments. We are very poorly adapted to this one, and it has a lot to do with the fact that we've introduced a lot of noise naively into these places and have no idea what the consequences are. So really, who is anybody to shut down anybody who's at least doing the work honestly?
Yeah. I think for a lot of lifelong liberals, especially of a certain age, the idea of a podcast is also you're just not going to open that door. And both Brett and I, write as well. And many people do. And I'm at the moment not, find the right piece by one of us. I'm thinking your recent Unheard piece just is clearly from the left. The piece that I had published in Area a while back, What If We're Wrong, our book. But, if our names are at this point somehow sullied, which is absurd, but I know it's true in some circles, try finding, something from Matt Taibbi or Glenn Greenwald or Barry Weiss. Those are just the three names that pop up most obviously. People with, big Substacks. The first two are definitely coming from the left, and, just saying, I'm like we are, like, got to clean my own house first, right? Like, the critique is, from the left and of the left, because we see the failures of what was supposed to be our people most acutely.
Yeah, I think, last thing on this topic, maybe, I've tried to come up with some formulations that cause one to have to engage them consciously here. And I think the idea, these are just me surfacing things that are underlying here before you ever get around to naming it. Reluctant radical, right? To be unashamed to be a radical, but to acknowledge that being a radical is not a good idea. It's something one only does if one doesn't have a choice. I think it doesn't take very much looking around the world to realize things are off. And it's not a big extrapolation from there that we have to change. and we have to change is not a happy message, because change is dangerous. So, can you say to somebody, look, this person is, unashamed of being on the left, and not only on the left, but deeply enough progressive to accept the term radical, which is not a nice term at the moment. Nobody's proud of being a radical at the moment. And the point is, reluctant radical is the answer. It says, that this is a position arrived at cautiously and not politically, frankly. So.
Sorry, I think we have elephants in the front yard at the moment.